Welcome back to Finding Fashion, an eco fashion podcast that is not clinically depressing. I'm your host, Pojo. I'm so happy to be here with you. We're in sunny LA, well-lit studio, but behind that sunny LA. I'm very excited for this amazing conversation today with an amazing person I have sitting next to me. But before we even get started, I need to let you know that this podcast is powered by Galaxy. For those that don't know what Galaxy is, it's a new way to source your favorite fashion pieces. Whether you're into vintage, upcycled, or supporting cool small creators, Galaxy is the place for you. Later in the episode, we're actually going to spotlight an amazing creator on Galaxy, so stay tuned for that. I'm sitting next to somebody who I'm so excited to chat with. We already went down the rabbit hole before we even started, but I think I need to preface with this. When you first heard Finding Fashion was an eco podcast, your brain could have gone two ways. All right, the first direction is what we discussed the first episode, this climate doomism, this like spiral where fast fashion is ruining the planet and da-da-da-da, and oh my God, and you know how it goes from there, just down. The other angle, which I prefer, and I think many of us could prefer for the sake of not losing our sanity, is the fun side of it. The cool stuff, the cool thrifting, the cool secondhand market, the finds, okay? The stuff that actually sparks joy, all right? Marie Kondo's like, yes, that's it. That's what we need. And who I'm sitting next to today sparks the most joy, may I add. She's an absolute powerhouse of a creative. Okay, I'm going to be very passionate this episode, if you couldn't tell. I'm so obsessed with her platform. Before I even met her, I was like, this convo, snaps for the combo before it even begins, because you guys, I'm so excited to share with you. We have amazing Macy from Glazed in the house. If you don't know her, she has a fantastic platform online. She's sharing her fashion finds. She's thrifting up a storm, and she's setting trends, and she's also hyping you up. If you don't watch her stories, then you're missing out, okay? I'm so excited to dive into everything with her today. And beyond the fashion stuff, she's just an amazing role model. Macy, welcome to Finding Fashion.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. It's such an honor. Seriously. Like I said before, you came through the door and I was like, I feel like I know you already, and it's time for you to get to know me, because I feel like
I caught that vibe. I caught that vibe right away.
And we also have just an amazing community of people that connect us too. So I'm like, this is just amazing. We're off to a great start, you guys. I don't even know where to begin, because there's so many facets of who you are online that I just want to explore today. But I guess we just kind of have to start from the beginning before we go down the rabbit hole. But before we even do that, I need you to break down this fit for me today, because I knew you'd serve, but here you are doing just that. Please tell us what you're wearing today.
Okay, so I feel like I could have pulled out a little bit more, but
No,
of course
please.
we are fully secondhand.
Yes.
H to T.
As you should.
We can start at the T. These are vintage, like Kohl's vibes back in the day.
The only shoes I had.
Platform brown boots. I got these on Poshmark. These jeans are a little bit of like a Y2K low waist moment. I got these at Super Thrift in the Valley.
Oh, yes.
Just a little hot tip for my LA girls. It's one of my favorite thrift stores in LA. It's very, very good.
Amazing.
This top I actually just thrifted when I was in Vegas over the weekend at Savers. This little vest moment. I can't remember what thrift store I got it at, but I thrifted it. And am I wearing anything else? Oh, these vintage Dolce & Gabbana, disgusting, but I did get them at a
I love
sale,
that you
so the
always
money
preface, by the
did
way, with
not
that.
go to them. Well, I don't ever want to be promoting like, let's go get Dolce & Gabbana to my followers, but if it's from a vintage seller or like an estate sale, and I know the money is going to go to a vintage seller I already support or a family at an estate sale, and I'm going to give them wear, like, let's keep them
Amazing.
living. You know what I'm saying?
I'm on the same exact boat as you, and it's also something that, like, tell me why she has to admit she's vegan within the first 10 minutes of an episode. Goes back to that meme, but I always get the, like, you know, people comment on my, like, choice to wear leather still, but it's always secondhand. And I'm like, guys, like, this is actually better for the environment than, like, buying something brand new.
The same with secondhand fur. It's better than synthetic fur.
Exactly.
It's worse for the planet anyway.
And it's like a conversation you have to have with yourself. Like, okay, people know that you're going for this like cool like Y2K energy, so no one's looking at you like, oh my God, you promote like these poor ethics. Like, no sis, I just found really cool glasses. Can you enjoy them for what they are?
Yeah, and like if you're gonna give them the life, like more life,
yeah,
you should.
I think so too. Well, it's that or they're collecting dust, and it's
exactly
like, let's give them something fun to do.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you for breaking this down. This is like all iconic right here. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think we're going for like a rocker, I don't know, vibe today.
It's definitely
That's what my
rocker.
boyfriend said when I left the house, and I was like, I appreciate it. Thank
You're like,
you.
there we go. We have the words to describe. Speaking of describing style, I know this is something we discussed briefly earlier, but the ability to describe one's style when you're touching everything. I mean, for you, like, you're literally seeing everything across the board with all of the stuff you do. I can imagine it's difficult to even put it into one word, but it's nice that you have each outfit to kind of decide for you. Like, you don't have to put it in a box.
I very much so dress depending on my mood, and I think that's just because I am someone that wants to be comfortable all the time and feel like me all the time. If I'm in an outfit and I don't feel like myself, like, I cannot do it.
No.
That's why I can't lean into trends that aren't me. Like, I have to feel like me and
That's
comfortable.
so important.
And that's how it works.
And what was it? What do you do? That's like the
shimmy.
There's so many. We should go into your terms too later, just about all the things you say.
I do create my own vocabulary. I've been doing that my whole life. My sister and I, like, I always get people like being like, what is your like accent? I'm like, it's not an accent. My sister and I just grew up really sad and depressed, and we wanted to sound fancy and have fun, so we did that by just making up words and talking in weird fancy accents all the time.
I would like to speak that language.
Yeah.
English, overrated.
Yeah.
Everything else,
that's the blazed and glazed language.
The blazed and glazed language. People ask, are you bilingual? Absolutely.
Blazed and glazed.
Blazed and glazed, always. Amazing. Well, I want to dive into a little bit about you and like where you started and all of this stuff. Where did you grow up, and what was your relationship with fashion like growing up?
So I live in Los Angeles now. I've lived here for about 5 years, but I actually grew up in Centerville, Ohio, which is in Dayton, Ohio. Not a big fashion scene, if you can believe it or not. All there really is like the Dayton Mall, which is literally just like Forever 21, which I did work at in high school, and that was the worst job of my life.
You're the second guest on the show to have worked at Forever 21
feels like
and
a
pivoted.
rite of passage.
It is.
But it was truly, truly terrible. Anyway, I mean, for me, thrifting and fashion have always gone hand in hand. I grew up raised by a single mom, and it was just me and my mom and my younger sister in our house. And my mom was never like super into fashion, but she was into like dressing me and my sister and like matching looks, even though we're 6 years apart.
I love that high-low.
We're always thrifting, and really like I developed like my love for diving into fashion when I was probably like 15, 16 years old. I couldn't afford to shop at like all of the random, Abercrombie and Hollister and stuff like that at the mall that my peers were shopping in. And I was starting to really get into fashion. I was obsessed with Teen Vogue and nylon. My basement bedroom wall in Ohio, like my walls were covered in Teen Vogue and nylon pages. And I would literally just go to the thrift store every single Wednesday, half off day, Salvation Army, right down the street from my mom's house. And I would come home, not the most sustainable thing, but back then I was not really that thrifting and sustainability I hadn't made that connection back then. I mean, that was like 2009, 2010. That wasn't really a huge part of the conversation in general yet. And so I would come home with like trash bags full of clothes, go down and like put outfits together and play with it. And I pretty much did that all the time. And I started a YouTube channel that is really no longer anymore, called Fashion Outsider 09, when I was like 15, 16 years old.
The name speaks for itself. First of all, any YouTube channel that had numbers after it before 2015 was it.
It was because we were all like, is it even safe to put our real names on the internet? Yes or no? So I was like, okay, fashion. I'm in Ohio, so I'm like a fashion outsider. I don't even know what the 09 stood for. I think I just like liked how it looked. And I would literally make on my flip camera, like, come thrift with me videos. Like, honestly, what I make now, I think if you scroll back on my TikTok, you can find one that I posted that I tried to like get onto TikTok and like put into a more like digestible format, because it literally was on a flip camera. And these are all privated on YouTube by now, but I did that for like literally 5 people, 10 people. I don't even know. I think I hit like 1,000 subscribers on that channel back then. And I was just having fun with it and putting outfits together. So for me, like thrifting and fashion, like I said, have always gone really hand in hand. And back then, like, it was not cool. Like, the girls in my high school and on my cheerleading squad like called my clothes smelly, even though they weren't. Like, bitch, I washed them just like you do. And yeah, no one thought it was cool, which is a huge reason why I started Blazed and Glazed, was to make people growing up the way that I did feel cool and feel like thrifting was like a superpower they had. Because for me, like, we were never like getting our hairs done and our nails done and all these things that other girls in my school were doing, because my mom was like, no, we DIY, we do it the cheap way, fake it till you make it. Like, that's always been so ingrained in me. And I've carried it with me like my whole entire life, and I don't think I'll ever not be that way.
But I love that you were documenting it even then, that I have this feeling that everyone that was doing it when you were doing it is the reason why it is what it is today, and why that conversation, like why the gap was even able to be bridged between like that being a sustainable option too. Like, it's so great that you still continue to document that. Like, I remember because I also was thrifting when I was younger too. I said this on a previous episode, but my mom didn't tell me what a shopping mall was till 5th grade. And I was like, now that's traumatic. I was like, the fact that you hid this from me and everyone around me is wearing like all this drip. I'm
That's
like,
fantastic.
I can't believe you. Like, but I had so many amazing things from my like local thrifts. And I remember, yeah, same as you. It's like this feeling of like outsiderness, just being like separated from that. By the time I started shopping more mainstream with that stuff and I started making my own money modeling, whatever, I remember feeling like there was a shame around it that like shouldn't have existed because all of my favorite pieces were thrifted.
Always the coolest shit. Always what anyone was asking me, like, where's your outfit from? The thrift store, the thrift store, the thrift store.
Yeah.
And everyone's initial reaction back then was just like, ew,
Right.
like what? And I was just like, in my like upper middle class Ohio neighborhood, like it just wasn't something that a lot of other girls, I was one of like the only people in my friend group back then with like a single mom that didn't have like a 2-income household they were living in, and like so it just wasn't something a lot of them related to. But now like they all think it's so fucking cool.
Dude, everyone that wanted, they weren't a part of the team before, they are now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're following you on TikTok too and like learning from you. So there you go, full circle,
The DMs
baby.
have poured in. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure the locals are back and you're like, oh, please go away. Sally, please.
Like, you were so mean to me.
Mind your business, queen. Mind your business. I can't. It's so funny. But I love that for you because it's just like, it just shows too, like staying authentic to who you are or like true to who you are and not caving into just like trends. Like how miserable would you have been anyways trying to fit in? It's like a full-time job doing that.
That's like a huge part of, I feel like, just even my journey as a person and like my career journey online is just, I always knew I wanted to be an entertainer and make people laugh and make people happy because entertainment was what got me through so much of my childhood. And it's been such a long journey. Like people do really say to me now, like, oh my God, you just like blew up on TikTok during the pandemic, like overnight, like whatever. And I'm like, no, I've literally known this is what I wanted to do in some way my whole life. And for the past 10 years, I've basically been having this kind of YouTube channel, then this, and trying to like find my footing and staying true to myself and who I am and what makes me happy and what I want to spread to other people. I'm so happy I did that because there were a lot of times when I've been like, oh, like if I posted this kind of trend, like it would get a bajillion views and then I could grow so much faster. But for me, I knew in my gut I would find my community and I would find my place and I would be able, and I just wanted to be able to be myself in it. I didn't want to feel like I'm like being trapped being someone else and just spreading a message that I didn't feel like was right or like me.
Yeah.
Because I've always seen like the longevity and that I want this in entertainment to be my career my whole life, and so I don't want just like a couple seconds of, you know, internet fame because I like got a crop top from Amazon and told you how to style it 5
Use
different
my
ways.
link in my
I don't
story.
fucking
No,
know. Like,
exactly. And like that wouldn't have given you what you have now, which is like a concentrated group of people that are so excited about what you have to say and like actually really follow your advice. Like I'm sure the people that are in LA are like taking tabs on what you're saying, like, oh, I gotta go to this estate sale, and like you're creating that like type of engaged community, which is so important. And like, yeah, like how much the irony is you can't build off of fast fashion.
No.
You know what I mean? It just goes like that anyways. So like creating this community that's fascinated in like the longevity of things and things that mean something to them is like so important.
And for me, fashion's like always been so much more than just like cute outfits. It's, you know, where even parts of like my eating disorder thrived and where I have just, and where I've also, you know, felt so hurt, but also like, and so small, but also what's now allowed me to feel so good about myself and finding myself in this new kind of fashion world I've created around myself. And I'm just so happy that I never went, you know, the direction of like, let me just get more clicks by just like doing something that doesn't feel like me.
I'm happy you didn't do that too, because I wouldn't have found you like organically the way I did. And like, yeah, everything online that you're doing is just so fascinating and exciting. But I kind of wanted to dive really quickly into the name of your platform. This is something that like,
Let's do it. Not enough people ask me.
Yeah, so Glazed and Glazed. My brain goes like 5 places. Because you're in LA, I hate to just jump to the conclusion, but I hear she's high.
Mm-hmm.
She's glazed. You're either eating donuts or your skin's on swim.
I mean, girl, you're right. You're right.
Is that all of
You're
it?
right here.
I love it.
Literally, I'll tell you. So I made Blazed and Glazed. So the Blazed and Glazed, the YouTube channel, existed before the TikTok. And so before the pandemic, like a year before the pandemic, I was like, okay, I want to make this YouTube channel. I want to make it about fashion. I'm in a good place in my recovery after a couple years. And I want to create a space where people come to just feel good about themselves. I felt like there were so many fashion influencers a couple years ago putting out the message of like, look like me, dress like me, be like me, and then you're cool, then you're hot, then you're this, and that. And I wanted a place where people that were just so different than me could feel power in watching me. And I really wanted it to not just be my name, because I wanted it to feel more like a community in a sense. So I was really walking around my old neighborhood in Beverly Hills with my boyfriend, and my skin looked fantastic. I don't wear makeup, which has been a part of my recovery journey as well, and getting comfortable with my body, because I used to be so dependent on it. And I have nothing against makeup. I think whatever makes anyone feel amazing, but for me it was like important to like just feel good in my skin. And then I just like never wanted to put it back on. And I was walking around my neighborhood, I had just done a face mask, I like flipped my camera up on my phone, and I was like, oh my god, I look so glazed. And yes, I do smoke weed because I mean I love it, but also because I have anxiety and endometriosis, which is a chronic illness that puts me in the most pain. I got diagnosed with it when I was 16, and there's like nothing for it. People that have it understand, like there's nothing for it. And instead of just shoveling painkillers that do nothing down my mouth, I smoke a joint. And
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I look so glazed. And my boyfriend was like, oh, glazed, that's good. And I was like, oh, blazed, like, yeah, I'm
blazed and
glazed. And from there, it just like was everything about me. And then it just made sense.
Wow.
But also, you know, you could be like, we're trailblazing, but no, it's
a little bit of everything. No, but seriously, all of the above. Like that makes so much sense. I also, not to go into like a quick pivot on that, but like the lack of research and studies on endo makes it like this black hole where you're like, well, what do I do? Like you're finding your spot with it.
It's insane. Yeah. And it was something that, like I said, I got diagnosed with when I was 16, and I was so lucky. I was in pain. I started my period in 4th grade, like literally what was happening in my body, 10 years old. And I was in so much pain all the time. The universe said you get no days off. Oh yeah, no. And I was like, why am I in so much pain? And for years, it was called this mystery illness. And finally, a doctor told me that is what I had. My little sister has it. And when I started even mentioning that, I think I made one TikTok about endometriosis a year ago or so, and the comments just like blew up with like, oh my god, like I have this too, or like I think I have this, because it goes so undiagnosed.
It's so true.
But yeah, weed is the only thing that helps, and people have such a like misconception about if you smoke weed every day what kind of person you are, and like and I'm just like, it makes me not, you know, huddled over in pain 24/7.
Exactly. Well, no, I think it's great because you're breaking the stigma around that. I know you're in LA, so there really is like very little stigma.
Yeah, here it's definitely more chill, but I have followers like from all over
that which is great.
Like, I'm so surprised. Like I've gotten comments that are like, I'm so surprised. Like you just don't seem like a stoner. I'm like, no, I definitely am. I just am me.
You're a high functioning stoner. Yeah, like, you're like, I'm not out here like munchies all day on the couch. No, like I'm very proactive doing my thing.
A joint at the end of the day, like to get me down.
I love it.
And I don't really drink a lot, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's holistic.
Exactly. And it works for me.
It works. I love it. And I'm glad that you're doing, like, it's all the things that you care about in one place, which like is also what adds to what you're doing. It's not just like, hey guys, let's go shopping all the time. Like that's fun, and it's compartmentalized for a lot of people. They can't do it all the time. But the fact that you're doing it and you're also doing it in your way with your personality, which just shines through and everything, like it's just a happy place. It really is. And
I want it to be a happy place. I grew up just wanting a happy place in TV shows and movies, because we didn't have like TikTok and shit, and YouTube was just getting kind of big when we were like younger. And for me, like just entertainment saved my life. And so like I know the power of that. And so I get up every morning and I put positivity out there, but it's because it's what I need. Like positivity is such a practice for me. I was such a negative person, which went very hand in hand with my eating disorder growing up. And I've had depression since I was 6. So it's not natural for me. And it's the number one thing I always try to tell people, because it's one of the number one questions I get all the time is like, how are you so happy all the time? How are you so positive all the time? I'm like, bitch, I'm not.
Exactly.
It's a practice every single day. And it's one that just even putting that out on my stories and on my TikTok and in my YouTube videos, like it helps me to just feel accountable to other people and for myself.
So we're going to get right into the thrift stuff, because obviously that is like your main spiel over here. I need to know like what it was, like the first find that you had that made you really want to like explore it deeper. I know you said you've had like, obviously you've been doing this your whole life, but what was like the one piece, or do you have one piece that was like, yep, yeah, this one right here, this is it?
So I would say, you know, I'd been thrifting my whole life, but then I actually like applied to and got accepted to the first ever Teen Vogue Fashion University, which was
the biggest flex.
To younger people listening, like this like random thing Teen Vogue did. It was literally advertised in the back of the magazine, the physical magazine, because yes, we didn't have Instagram then yet. And it was just like, have a photo shoot in your, have a photo shoot, write an essay, and then maybe we'll pick you to come to like a whole weekend, like a whole seminar in New York with like Amy Astley. I mean, Anna Wintour was the keynote speaker, like Zach Posen, Vera Wang. I was literally in like a tiny group of kids just listening. One of the panels was literally just like all of the OG bloggers, like because blogging was such a new thing at the time, and I was so into it. But I remember like getting accepted to that, literally did like a shoot in my basement, put a sheet on the wall, and made my sister that's 6 years younger than me take photos of me. They are hilarious. I've roasted them on TikTok.
I need you to send. Please send.
They're tragic, but Teen Vogue said, yes, you come. And I went, and I just knew the outfits that I needed to bring. I wanted to make cool outfits, but we couldn't afford to like go get me a whole new, wardrobe to bring with us, because my mom was like, okay, we're gonna fly to New York. Like, this is a big deal. And the fact that my mom even like saw that in me and trusted that I got in, and yeah, let's just fly to New York and go to this thing that Macy applied to in the back of a fashion magazine, like mom of the year. Yes,
mom
woman.
Of the
She's
year.
the best. But yeah, I thrifted all of my outfits for it. And it was just like, it hit me just like, okay, I remember being there being like, okay, like my outfits look so good. And like everyone's complimenting them, and everything's secondhand. Everything's from Salvation Army. Literally not even like vintage, like designer, like consignment. Like, no, it was literally just from my local Salvation Army, head to toe. And I felt, it was the first time I had felt cool in like thrifted clothes. I'd been wearing them to school and no one was getting it. Everyone thought it was smelly and weird. And it was this place where I was around so many people that loved fashion, meeting so many people like me, kids from all across the country that had applied to this from the back of the magazine, gotten in, and were so excited to be around other people that loved clothes. And people like appreciated the choices that I was making. They appreciated the secondhand outfits. So I think for me, it was less like one item, but it was the fact that I could kind of curate a 3-day like weekend of outfits for this huge thing in New York that felt so important to me. And I could curate those and like walk these like random step and repeats that they had us do and all of this stuff, and get photographed in these fully thrifted outfits, like did for the first time make me feel cool about wearing fully thrifted outfits all the time.
And also to be in like a space where it's like you're looking to that space for fashion inspo, like you were saying, like obsessed with Teen Vogue, all that stuff.
Covered
like,
my walls.
It validates exactly what we know already about fashion, which is like it's not about brands. It's not about like hype or clout around anything. It's about like finding pieces that like make sense for you and feel good to you, and like you owning that piece and also wearing it is the reason why people are inspired by it. They're like, I love your outfit today, and you're like, boom, another point, another point, another point. It's like 5 points for thrifting. Everyone else loses.
I did find a really, really good, I will say, like icy blue. I forget the exact style of it, but it was like an icy blue, tiny mini Louis bag that I found at my local Salvation Army. They literally gave it to me for $10.
No
It
way.
was real. And I remember finding that before I went to college. I think it was when I was like 18. And I was just like,
you're like, this is it.
This is so good.
I
Because
love
before
it.
then, I just hadn't really been too much into like designer brands. And like, I hadn't found one at the thrift store before, because I'd only been to like my Ohio, Centerville, Dayton thrift stores. And when I found that, I was just like, oh my God. Like, okay, things like this exist in the secondhand universe, and I'm going to find all of it.
Everything exists in the secondhand universe. And it's like kind of scary when you realize like how much is being consumed and how much exists there that we forget about and we don't even realize until you find it. Like, I don't know. I think I pulled like, and it wasn't my size, but like a Chanel full dress that was like just like a formal, like more corporate dress. And it was, I knew it was authentic because of like the details on it. And I was like, this is in, Savers for like $40. And I'm like, is anyone seeing this right now? Like, I don't even know how to handle this, but like, I've definitely had moments like that too, where you're like, yep, this is the place I want to live. Yep. This is it. Amazing. So what, did you have like a favorite all-time favorite thrift experience that you're like, can't forget it? Or maybe even like an estate thing, which by the way, I'd love to get into estate sales, because I know it's like a completely different universe, but is there one that speaks to you in particular?
Yes, definitely an estate sale. I went to an estate sale. I mean, it's like, I just love estate sales so much. It's hard for me because I get asked all the time, like thrift stores or estate sales. And I'm like, I can't pick, because thrift stores will always have my heart. And I just love like a big warehouse with like squeaky hangers where you just feel like you need to take a shower after.
Yes, exactly.
But then like estate sales are just like a different thing, because it's kind of like a curated, like, I mean, it was someone's whole life. And I went to an estate sale in Calabasas. I made a TikTok at it. It's pinned at the top of my TikTok because it's like my favorite one I've ever made and gone to. It was in Calabasas. It was a well, like they had passed away, but she was a porn star and her husband was a porn director, like in like the 70s and the 80s.
Stop.
This house was batshit crazy insane. Like literally like just huge framed photos of her in crazy lingerie outfits. There were like, I literally bought one of her porn awards because I would just felt like I needed that
You were
energy.
like, this energy right here, sir.
It was just the closet. I mean, it was the most insane house ever.
Wow.
The energy was bumping and like I loved it so much. She had like all these velour tracksuits that she would wear on set and like just crazy stuff. And I just felt the energy pumping through that place. And I also went to one in the hills about a year ago as well that was like you could just tell this woman was like a disco diva to the max. Like I just found the most amazing clothing in there. And that's why I love estate sales, especially when they're like a person like that lived a crazy ass life. And you can find really good ones here in LA because people live crazy ass lives here.
Right.
And especially back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And it's just a time capsule of fucking awesomeness.
Oh,
And it just, I start feeling that energy. And it just, and then I think about those people every time I wear the pieces. And I think about that woman, like I can just tell, like would have absolutely wanted her clothing to go to someone that's going to go live like their own kind of life and tell their own story. And so I love that. I literally have the porn award in my office.
that's so good. There's like so much to unpack there. I also like that was one of my questions too, like about energy. Like you go into these places, I'm sure in thrift stores too, you can feel it when you find the right piece. But like, do you feel like you feel that when you're in every estate sale? And also, I guess we should really start with like, what is an estate sale? Because some people just have no idea what we're talking about.
No, I know. And I didn't really know. When I made my first estate sale TikTok, like it was just riddled with comments of like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like you just go in and you just buy shit. And I'm like, literally, it's a garage sale in a house. It's, you know, when someone's passed away, or it's like a moving sale as well. And like if someone's passed away, a family will like contact an estate sale company because, you know, having to go through all of your loved ones' things and like do all of that labor and stuff, like that's not always like a good, like a healthy and good part of the grieving process. That can be so hard for some people, especially if maybe they didn't have a good relationship with that person or something. Like it's great to have an estate sale company come and help sell that stuff. It's so much better for the environment. Obviously, it's so much more sustainable. Instead of all of that stuff going to a thrift store or to a landfill, it can go to people that want to appreciate it and wear it.
Absolutely.
And I love estate sales literally so much. I started going to them really heavily during the pandemic because thrift stores were closed. And like as things were opening up a little tiny bit in 2020, like mid 2020, before thrift stores were really open, I saw like postings on like this like Facebook group for like an estate sale. People were kind of doing them underground, but like with masks. And I went to one and like posted that on TikTok. And that was like when people were like, what is this? I didn't
How
know
do I
this
get
facet of
involved?
secondhand shopping existed. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, but toot toot beep beep, I have like boomed the estate sale industry in Los Angeles. Like literally, I went to one a couple months back where like the people like working the estate sale, I walked in and they were like, shimmy shake, and I was like, what?
No
and they were
way.
like shimmy shake top, that's you. And I was like, Macy, yes, hello, nice to meet you. And they were like, they were like, there was a gaggle of teenage girls here yesterday for the first day of the sale that were like, we're here and we want to buy shimmy shake tops and find vintage shimmy shake tops, like. And they were like, we've never had young people shopping estate sales before. It's been like this crazy boom. I did a video story, like the LA Times did one with me about like this like new boom of estate sales and younger people wanting to get involved and shop them.
Like you're bringing so many people in that like otherwise wouldn't know it existed.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Oh
Like
my
I feel
God.
like
the fact
I'm
that they're like shimmy shake. You're
I-
like, oh my God,
I'm
my
like, yes, that is
people.
my name by choice.
I love it. I love it. I actually have a really interesting story, like kind of similar to that. There's this really cool vintage spot near my house, and in the basement they hide all the clothes. There's antiques upstairs, like little doodads, all the things that you collect, just put on your table, etc. And then down in the basement they have like random estates they inherit, like closets typically. And so there'll be like full wardrobes the same size, and you're like, this is from the same person. So I remember I was shopping it one day. It was my first time going in the basement. I did not know it existed. I was so excited, and I found all these jackets, and I'm like, oh, I am an outerwear girl. Like I will collect the craziest jackets. It was like pretty much a Beetlejuice like striped jacket with red detail, gold buttons. I was in heaven.
I have way too many jackets for someone that lives in LA. It's sickening.
Honestly, the 52-degree days, like that's
I know.
it. That's it. But I got this jacket. I'm like, amazing. This one, there was a lime green one. I was like, this is amazing. So I bring it upstairs. But I when I tried it on in the pockets, I was like, oh, there's stuff in here. And then like I pulled out all this jewelry, and I'm like, that's so weird. Someone must have been trying to steal it. So I brought it upstairs. I'm like, hey, listen, I just want you guys to know, someone must have gone down there and tried this on and put all this stuff in the pockets. I think they're trying to steal it. So yeah, this was in there. And they go, oh, no. The woman whose wardrobe this was, she would keep all of her jewelry in the pockets. So she had her outfits planned.
Ugh, queen.
like I literally had a full fit because this woman was like, this bracelet will only go with this jacket. And I, to this day, I'll never forget, like when I wear those jackets now, of course, I'm like, I can only think like she was such a baddie. She was killing it. She had the earrings, she had the bracelet.
It's the kind of magic you truly only get from shopping secondhand and wearing clothes that have already like lived a life and told a story. It's really cool.
Personal.
And it makes new clothes seem way less exciting.
It's so true. And they're like, oh, this earring would go great. It's another $900. You're like, okay, well, thanks for nothing. Like, I'm not doing that. Meanwhile, I'm like, this was probably a $20 jacket. And they're like, sure, just take the jewelry. She wanted you to have it. I'm like, that is like a different type of experience.
She'd already curated the fit for you.
Exactly. Like, how are you supposed to go back and be like, sis, I can't do it. I'm gonna leave this here. You can't. You got to take it.
No.
I love that for you though. And I also like, I am so jealous of, yeah, exactly what you were saying. Like the amount of people that have lived here and lived these like spectacular and like fashion focused lives. There's just, this is everywhere. Of course, I'm sure like also because LA is so big, you just have so much to explore.
And they're so different. They're all so different. They all have different styles. And like, it's hard for me to not go to one every single weekend.
I'm sure. Yeah. So how do you source? Like, do you go online? Like there's like websites you find and it's kind of like all archived or something like that?
Yeah. estatesales.net I use for the most part. I am on a couple like mailing lists that are
I
very
love that
low
for
key
you.
because like a lot of vintage shops here, especially like furniture ones and like people that sell at like flea markets, they will source from estate sales because it's so cheap and it's less overpicked than like sometimes like going to the thrift store and whatnot. So and you can find crazy gems.
I know you talk a little bit online about having like a rotating closet and you're always sourcing stuff. And I know like, you know, depending on where you live, there's only so much space to have everything. Yeah. How do you manage? Do you like tend to sell things? Do you prefer a rotating closet or like, I know you're not a minimalist for sure. That's the one thing I've learned about you.
Not at all.
If there's anything I know about you, it's that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of the things I really do like to talk about because obviously like a huge comment I get is like, you just have so much shit. Like, do you even wear it? Like, how do you even wear it? Like your closet must be exploding. So first of all, I did get to build like kind of my dream closet this year. When I first moved to LA, I lived in a studio for 3 years with my boyfriend, literally us in a studio for 3 years. It was a lot. God. Then I was in a 1-bedroom during the pandemic. And then like about a year ago, we moved into our 2-bedroom. And my dream was to always be able to like in LA, turn one of our bedrooms into an office / like closet room. So you can kind of see it in some of my videos, but I have bars like installed, like double-decker bars installed all over. And I have all my clothes hanging because I like my space to feel like I'm in a store. Like I want to feel like I'm in my own thrift store all the time. And like I can see my clothes and try them on and my friends can come in and like use it as a showroom and stuff like that. And so I've always had, like you said, a rotating closet since I've been thrifting for so long. And like I'm just one of those people that doesn't get too attached to too much. Like there are, of course, pieces in my closet, we'll get to one of those later, that will never leave my closet. But I just like, I don't know, there's something about the magic of having my moment in it and passing it on to someone else to have their moment in it. And I think it, you know, gives the clothing more longevity than just sitting in my wardrobe waiting for me to wear it again. So for me, I focus a lot on donating, but I always like to remind people to not just like drop off bags at their local Savers and Goodwill and like corporate thrift stores. Either one, like really look into thrift stores, local thrifts that have a mission and, you know, that are donating money to help people in the community, but also really to like look into different shelters and stuff like that, like women's shelters in your area, especially here in LA downtown, that need clothes. You know, these people that are experiencing homelessness or are in abuse shelters or something like that, like they, you know, deserve cute clothing to wear as well and not just like whatever leftovers, whatever people are donating, whatever's in the thrift store. So I like to try to be really thoughtful about by donating, thoughtful donating and putting them to places, you know, if you give them to a shelter or something, they're going to get used. Those people are going to get dressed. My goal is to one day be able to, I don't know, just like have my followers come together and kind of do some kind of clothing drive to like get their clothing all together and stuff because, you know, we all drop it off at thrift stores and, you know, someone might buy it, but it's good to donate to thrift stores. But I think it's also really great to look into those places in your community, no matter where you live, that can use good quality clothing, cute clothing too. Like these people deserve and want to be stylish too.
Of course.
And so like I love being able to do that. And since part of my job is, you know, buying clothes because I'm making these videos on TikTok and doing it all myself right now, I want to be able to, you know, give them to people that can really like go live their life in them. I'm not a reseller, which I feel like is something that sets me apart from a lot of people in the thrift community. I feel like a lot of people that make thrift content are like Depop sellers or have their own vintage stores. For me, the videos I make are about entertainment and like I just love making people laugh and happy. And storytelling. And for
Right.
me, fashion is kind of like my, vessel for storytelling, if you will. I never wanted to be a reseller. I think there's enough people doing it and that are passionate about it, and it's a lot of work and it's not where my focus is. So for me, that's again a question I get all the time. It's like, sell your stuff. Like, where do you sell it? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you got to catch a closet drop whenever I decide to clean it
Right.
out. Because I like to get my stuff to my audience for really inexpensive prices. It's not like where I make my money as a creator is reselling. So I like to just be able to sell my stuff for really cheap to my
Yeah.
followers on my Instagram stories or on Poshmark or something.
Well, dude, Galaxy too.
And
That's a
exactly.
good, yeah.
And I need to, I want to dive into more of that. So that's like a little part of it. But for me, mostly it's donating, but not just dumping bags off at the thrift.
No, I
It's a
get
big
it.
thing I feel like to focus on, because then that stuff can circle right back into the landfill.
So
I think
true.
it's better to know where it's going and that it's going to people that are going to wear it and love
Yeah.
it and use it. I also am someone that changes my outfit 5 times a day. So my clothing does get a lot of wear. And I think people also forget when they're watching my content that so many other like fashion creators and influencers and stuff and people that do what I do, they're set like so many things from brands. And
Oh my
like
God,
I
yeah.
barely am. And that's by choice. Like I say no to most PR unless it's, a brand that I'm really passionate about, that's moving in a more sustainable direction, that's moving in a more size inclusive direction. That's a lot of the stuff I get sent is like from my followers' Depop shops just so I can promote them. And you know what I
love
mean?
that.
Just do that.
Yeah.
And brands that I feel, like I said, personally connected to.
I think one of the biggest questions I really wanted to ask you was regarding this conversation online that we see a lot, which I don't think isn't a valid conversation. I think it definitely, there's a time and place for it, about how thrifting and over thrifting is actually bad in underprivileged areas because you're taking away from people that rely on thrift. And I think you have an amazing angle on this just because of everything you've told me about your history with thrift. I'm wondering your thoughts on that. In this whole culture that we are seeing in the thrift world, like, is there a mindful way for us to thrift and make sure that we're not doing something damaging versus something that's like actually taking away from a community? I think it's like an interesting, there's a debate online.
No, it
about
is. And I'm glad that you brought it up because I don't feel like enough people, I don't know, ask me about it in that way. It was one of the number one things. It's the only thing I've ever really gotten too many hate comments about, except for my crackhead energy that everyone refers to, thinking I'm on drugs all the time. But no, it's this kind of idea that people were just like seeing my videos blow up on TikTok, and after like the first 100,000 followers I got, which happened like pretty quickly in a week or two when I joined the app, it was like this, oh, you're just like this rich girl going and stealing from all of these neighborhoods and taking all of these clothes, and like you don't need to thrift, so you shouldn't thrift. And I think that's a really not a good thing to push, because thrifting is for everyone. Thrifting's for everyone. And I've been thrifting my whole life. I thrifted when I had less of an income when I was growing up, and I will thrift for the rest of my life. I think there's definitely a way to thoughtfully do it. Obviously, like you can thoughtfully thrift and then you can thoughtfully donate back to those local communities as well. But I think everyone should be thrifting, and we should be encouraging more people to thrift. It's one of the biggest ways that we can help push the sustainability conversation, because let's be honest, sustainable brands are expensive. They are not accessible. They are not size inclusive. So if someone doesn't have a big income, like a lot of my followers are like 16-year-old LA
Have their own,
natives. I've
like,
seen my
yeah.
demographic. Like they grew up the way that I did. They're doing it in LA, and they're working with their single moms' budgets as well. And I wanted to provide a space for them to feel like they can be just as cool as everyone else, even cooler, and wear these clothes and get them from the thrift store and feel awesome about it. So I think there's a misconception that, there's a bunch of people just like resellers going to the thrift store and like clearing them out.
Right.
When first of all, the thrift supply, I mean, the clothing is endless. It's endless. It's endless. And it's going to the landfill and it's polluting the earth. And if I think I told you this before we started recording, if I can just influence like one girl, even if she's not from a low income family, even if she's in, high income, whatever, like if I can, influence her to go look for her dress for a party that she's going to go buy at Forever 21 or Shein, if I can convince her to do that at the thrift store, that's so much better for the
100%.
environment, for people, for the people making the clothes. Sorry.
You're so good.
So yeah, I think I never like shut down those conversations, because I think it's really important to listen to the people from the communities that you're living in and that you're taking part in things in, and to see how you can give back to them and be a part of the community, not just take from it and like make your videos and like be cute and whatever. Like I want to, you want to make sure you're being involved in it as well. So I think that it's a it's not like a black and white, yes or no, good or bad kind of answer. I think it's just about being thoughtful, about, I mean, even like your size privilege when you go thrifting, like
Yeah.
not just buying all the oversized clothes because you think it's cute. Like, I just think it's about keeping those things in mind. And if you're thrifting thoughtfully, I think you're going to be doing an okay job and you don't have to
Absolutely.
worry about it.
And I love that you even mentioned before, like you give back to the same places where you buy from because
Yeah.
like it's a ecosystem, you know, like none of it's supposed to just disappear forever. It's not going into the abyss. And the idea that like that life ends for that piece as soon as you resell it in quotes, that doesn't mean that, you know, like it could be
Yeah.
going into someone that's doing the same exact thing. And the fact that we are so ignorant of where our textile waste is going and we don't even realize how much there is because it's
Yeah.
not staying where we live. It's going to
No, we
other
don't see it every
countries.
day. So it's like
No.
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And so that issue is so much bigger to squash than we realize. And yeah, like we're not going to sit here and act like, I mean, I'm sure there's some places that the thrift does get cleaned out and whatever, like that's something to consider, like, but that's case to case. And a lot of these places have so much backlog of stuff that's just sitting in the back.
It is, and it's constantly like being rotated,
Yeah.
and they are sending it to landfills. And you know, there's different kinds of thrift stores. It's like you have your Goodwills and your Savers. Those are corporate thrift stores. They don't give any of their profit back. It's going into those CEOs'
Right.
pockets and whatever. But they're your local thrift stores. And like there's one I really like in LA, St. Vincent de Paul. They're the largest thrift store in LA, and they give back to people experiencing homelessness in LA, which is obviously a massive issue here.
Yeah.
And they, you know, their marketing director reached out to me during the pandemic and was just like, hey, like, can you make a video here just to like tell people about us and like that kind of thing? Like, I don't charge people for that, like, you
No,
know,
'cause
because I want to
yeah.
help. And they were, you know, at a point during the pandemic where they were going to have to shut down. And them shutting down because they don't have enough customers coming in and buying clothes means that money is not going to those people experiencing homelessness in
Right.
LA. So if I can like make a video and make more people want to go shop there, I mean, that's been a huge part during the pandemic of me getting comments telling me that I'm kind of like sending people to these thrift stores that are doing like these bad things by buying clothes there. But then also like at the same time, these small businesses and nonprofits reaching out to me like, we're gonna have to shut our doors if more people aren't coming into thrift. I think people just are kind of not understanding the full circle of it always.
Yes.
But like I said, I think it's really, those conversations are valid, and I never like to shut them down and just say like, no, you're absolutely wrong, you're doing nothing wrong, because there's always stuff to learn and there's always space to listen to people that have different lived experiences than you and that grew up in these communities. So I think having your ears open and your mind open and your heart open and thrifting thoughtfully, you know, which can be hard because there's a lot of cute shit, but you don't need all of it. Even I've learned that.
We all have to learn that the hard way, but it's so, I love that term, like thrifting thoughtfully. That I just, and that's the biggest thing with what we're trying to push with this podcast anyways, is just thoughtfulness around your decisions in fashion. Like,
Thoughtfulness around everything, everywhere.
yeah, please just think, gosh, a little longer.
A little like thoughtfulness and empathy will go a really long way. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be better to thrift a shirt for a random occasion that you want a new outfit for than to buy one off the internet, because people that are just saying, if you have the money, shop sustainably. It's a, you know, that's not a black and white spectrum either, because it's like,
Exactly.
how sustainable is a brand? None are perfect.
Right.
So, yeah, a lot of them smack sustainable or whatever on it. But like I said, a lot of people can't afford those, and they
Right.
don't make sizes for everyone. So then what are you left with? Like,
Exactly. It's just, it's not, it's such a gray conversation. I so agree. And like, I think that's the biggest thing. If we could all decide that we're going to step into a future of fashion that is more mindful and also not shooting down the people that are trying to spread good. Like, if people can't see what you're doing as like across the board a great influence and good for the environment and good for people's self-esteem and good for all these things, like confidence, like all the things you care about, then we're not actually having conversation at all. It's just an echo chamber
Yeah.
of like yelling and you're wrong, I'm right.
yeah,
And
and
that's
that's
just not
not
the
getting
case.
us. That's not like getting us anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's not pushing us towards change, but you are, and I'm so excited about that. So, snaps or shimmies,
Yeah, we can do silent shimmies.
silent shimmies for you. I love that. Amazing. Well, we're gonna take a quick break right now from the conversation. We'll be right back, and right now, here is a word from an amazing Galaxy creator. So stay tuned.
Hey, it's Justin from Third Eye Throwbacks. I got started selling secondhand because it was something I was always involved with, going to garage sales, going to thrift stores, and why not make a business out of something that you love while you can help the earth all at the same time. My collection consists of a lot of graphic t-shirts. That's mainly what I sell, but it doesn't stop there. I love a ton of outerwear pieces. I also love little pieces of accessories and toys and action figures like that. I can't remember the first item that I've ever thrifted, but at least the first item that had to do with fashion or style or me caring about how I looked Had to be like late high school, early college, picking up some minor league sports team or soccer shirt, something I've never played, but always just thought the designs were cool. Hands down, one of the coolest pieces that I've found at the thrift is still a part of my personal collection to this day. Vintage Raiders satin jacket. Found this in the Bronx like over 5 years ago, and it is still in my closet to this day. Thank you, thrift. My advice to you starting selling secondhand, find something that you love, find something that you're passionate about. You want to make sure that your first purchase and your 1,000th purchase are just as exciting. It should be a treasure hunt for you, so make sure it's your treasure. Selling secondhand allows me to escape the cycle of overconsumption, of just consuming, and just destroying everything in our wake. It's a way for me to fight the good fight against fast fashion and still look cool doing it. Shop the Third Eye Throwbacks collection out on Galaxy on shopgalaxy.com/third-eye-throwbacks. I'll see you then.
Welcome back to Finding Fashion. It's your girl Pojo. I'm sitting here with my girl Macy, aka Blazed and Glazed. We're gonna get right back into it, you guys, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this subject that you discuss quite a bit on your platforms, and I'm so grateful you do. You've really been able to merge like your brand in the fashion realm with your conversations around mental health. And I'm so glad, because as soon as I followed you on Instagram, actually specifically, I love that your stories are very personal, but also removed enough where you create boundaries with the internet. But like you really do touch base in a way that's so important. You talk about anxiety and depression quite a bit. And like, thank you for doing that, because that's so important and we all need that. I'm just curious, like, as a creator, I know what it feels like. I've struggled with depression for, let's go back, I'm trying to think, pretty much my entire life. How do you handle the ebbs and flows of that while creating? And I know that I can only imagine that's hard for you, but like, how do you personally like create that, I don't know, motivation to keep doing what you're doing through all of it?
Yeah, so just like a bit of background,
Please,
I
yeah.
was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was 6, and it's just always been a part of me. And for the longest time in my life, like literally up until just the past like 5 years ago, when I entered like real eating disorder recovery, which went really hand in hand with helping my mental health get better, I was such a glass half empty, negative ass bitch. Like literally, I looked at people that were positive and happy and were like, cringe, cool for you, not for me. Like I truly like had this belief that because of things that had happened to me and trauma and stuff like that, that just I couldn't live a happy life, that some people were meant to be that way, some people weren't. And I never saw that. I'd probably like cringe out of my pants at myself now, my old self, but I'm so much happier now, even though I have depression. And depression, anxiety is something I work through every single day. I wake up every morning and like really have to make that choice to just, some days I have to let myself feel those feels, but other days, like I really need to like lean into the positivity and not say mean stuff to myself and say kind things to myself, which were things that I've really learned a lot in my recovery from my eating disorder. And yeah, it can be hard to get. Sometimes it can be hard to get the motivation to film, but for me, honestly, like putting that out there helps me so much. Like on my stories, like you were saying, that's definitely where I talk about mental health the most, is on my Instagram stories, because, it makes me feel like accountable to get up every day and post like something that makes me feel good, that makes other people feel good. And then even if I woke up in a really shitty mood that day or really feeling my depression hard, it can help me at least like focus on the good, focus on what I'm grateful for, the community that I have and stuff like that. But it can be really hard. I definitely went through probably the worst depression episode that I've had in a really, really long time. Like even I'm like on the phone with my mom and she's like, I haven't heard you sound so sad in so long. And I was just I was really starting to like lose sight of just like anything. And it can really become this black hole of just hardness where you just feel so down. And for me, my depressions, I've never had the kind of depression where like I can't leave bed and stuff like that. For me, my depression anxiety goes so hand in hand that like my depression's trying to keep me down, but my anxiety is like, bitch, you need to get up and do shit. Or like, what are you going to do? How are you going to accomplish anything? Like, what are you going to do?
Same.
I've always just been so critical of myself. Obviously, a lot of people that go through eating disorders are very hypercritical of themselves. And I've always had these big dreams for myself to make television shows, which is like what I'm kind of working on transitioning my career into right now through fashion. And yeah, for me, like keeping my goals and like that I want to be an entertainer and make people laugh and make them happy, that's at the forefront of my mind every day when I wake up. My dreams, like for my life and my dream career, is what I clung to growing up in like an abusive, toxic environment. It's what I clung to and it's what I knew was going to be my future. I just didn't know how. And so for me, even when I wake up, and even these past 6 months, I was going through this really hard depression spell where I literally, it was so hard. And people that watch my videos like sometimes don't even believe that I have that, but I am on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. So I definitely like think that if you have the privilege to do so and you're really struggling, that there's no shame in asking for help and for being on medication that you need to be on, because it's something that's really, really helped me. At least help take my anxiety from like an 100 to like a 70 sometimes.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, my kind of goals for the future is what like I said, I've always clung to, and it's always been what makes me happy and what pushes me to like get through to the next day. I've always like felt like I went through everything I went through for a reason, and it's to share it with the world and to make people feel less alone that are going through the same things. And it's something that I used to feel really ashamed of, and my depression and anxiety were things I felt very ashamed of, but now I just feel like they're kind of tools I have in my kit that help me better relate to people. And I think it's like absolutely for a reason. So I think it's really an important part of what I do on the internet. And I just can't share the good and the positive without sharing that entire backstory of mine, because I think for me, I didn't see a lot of people, you know, internet culture wasn't as big like 10 years ago when I was younger, obviously. And my favorite movie stars and TV stars weren't talking about this stuff.
Right.
So for me, it was like, where are the like functioning people that are, you know, living these like fun, happy lives where they're making their dreams come true. They're wearing cute clothes. They're being fun. They're, you know, being funny, whatever. But they're also like, yeah, I have depression. I have anxiety. Like I've struggled with these things for so long, but I'm here and like I'm having a good time, and that's stuff I never thought possible. So for me, it's like I just feel so irresponsible. I would feel so irresponsible just sharing all of the highlights of what my life has become, because they would not exist without like all of the work I've done with my mental health.
It feels weird to high five you right now, but I also went through a 6-month depressive spiral the same exact time. It could be something little, like something small can happen in June that spirals a spiral for 6 months, and it's just like showing up every day for yourself and doing your best effort, or like putting your best foot forward, I should say, to try to show up for the day and like do what makes you happy.
Exactly.
And like sometimes when you're that low, and I've experienced it too, this is like I said, why I connect with you so much, like seeing someone that's passionate about something that I'm passionate about, and also seeing you so transparent, like, hey guys, haven't been on stories because of this, but like shimmy, let's go get some cool shit. Like that energy is like what people need to like feel seen. And like I felt so seen with you even just posting that. So like I know, I can imagine, it's disciplinary. Like there's so much discipline that comes with like, you know, having a business like the one that you have, and like needing to find balance there and with all these things. And if you don't mind, I'd love to dive into your eating disorder experience, because I feel like that's so relevant to your relationship with fashion. As we know,
It is.
It could be, thanks fashion for triggering all this bullshit. But
Literally.
I mean, that industry literally, the foundation of fashion, as weird as it is to say, like we all know there's a lot of like bad stuff underneath the surface and like things that we don't see. But marketing is one of the easiest, like the marketing tactics that we've digested over the past even 20 years or however long, in itself is such an obvious problem, and it feeds into these things. And I'm just curious, like, how has your relationship with fashion changed after like going through and also experiencing recovery, which we know is not linear, but is such an important journey. And I'm so grateful to hear that that's, you know, a journey you're on right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like fashion, I had to re-find it again. I loved fashion my whole life, but even when I was talking about Teen Vogue Fashion University, like as much as like, oh my God, yeah, there was good memories there and it was so amazing and it was so transformative for me. I also do remember, I will never forget walking into like the Teen Vogue offices and during that program and just seeing all thin white women that and hearing conversations as like a 16-year-old that were going on from these women, like too busy to eat, like, oh my God, like glamorizing that. And that stuff stuck in my mind.
Of course.
And it was always to me like skinny equaled successful. And like if I wasn't just like pushing myself to like be as thin as I possibly could, like I didn't have enough discipline, and like the Virgo in me very much so like pushed that as well. And I just always correlated like thinness with success and thinness with beauty, which is disgusting. And it was nothing I ever gave a second thought to growing up. And when I moved out to LA 5 years ago and really entered recovery, I mean, literally what happened was I'd wanted to live in LA and be in the entertainment industry my whole life. And I was like, okay, when I get there and when I get out of Ohio, I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to be so happy happy. My depression will be gone. Like eating disorder, like all this stuff will
Right,
be
like
better.
a magical fix, like,
And
fix it all pill.
I just, yeah. And I just remember like sitting on the floor of my studio apartment a couple weeks after moving to LA, like crying my eyes out after like the millionth time I'd looked in the mirror and just dissected my body and said the meanest stuff to myself, which was normal for me, to get up every day and do that. I just broke down crying and was like, I have all of these things. Like I'm in this dream place. I have all of the things at my fingertips to make my dreams come true. And all I'm worried about is how my stomach looks. Like, are
Right.
you fucking serious? I was so tired of it that I decided to just start trying to go through recovery on my own, which obviously is hard when you're not like, I'd been to an eating disorder facility, like inpatient when I was younger, and it did nothing. Like I was just like, let me lie my way out of here and like align myself with the girl who I can do that with. And I didn't see the value in it at all then. And over the past 5 years, like I have been able to refine fashion in a completely different way. I see people in a different way, the world in a different way, beauty in a different way. And it's insane. It's made me a better person, like such a better person. I'm almost like embarrassed of the way that I used to think and the things that I'm sure I said out loud that were like so terrible about myself and other people and bodies in general, that sometimes you don't even clock when you have thin privilege that you don't think you have because your eating disorder is making you think you don't have it when no, you do, even if you don't think you're thin. And it was just this toxic cycle. And when I decided to start Blazed and Glazed, my YouTube channel, like I said, I just wanted it to be a place where fashion, it wasn't about how the clothes look on our body, if it's flattering or not, how to look this way. Like there were enough videos out there telling people how to dress for their body type or dress
Exactly.
flattering or how to lose 5 pounds so fucking quick so you can wear a bikini and look cute and feel good. And I just wanted people, no matter what their size is or what they look like or where they come from, to be able to come to Blazed and Glazed and feel like amazing and like they are so cool and like they're beautiful and they look great, but that's also like the least interesting thing about them. And let's just talk about our personalities and like be ourselves. And I feel like I'm just a completely different person now. Like recovery gave me not just healthier hair and a healthier body, and I don't pass out in public anymore, but it's given me just like this confidence in myself that I never had before, because I was always my whole life just being so critical of myself, talking shit on myself every single day when I woke up. That's been a huge part of even like my positivity journey, going hand in hand with my recovery, is like getting up every morning and those like kind of motivational-ish things I post on my Instagram story every day. It's because I need it. It's because I need to put that energy out there, or like because I don't want to slip back into something else where I was so miserable. Like I woke up for the first 25 years of my life, and the first things out of my mouth were something negative about myself. And that was something I hadn't even clocked until recovery, is like realizing that that's something so many of us do, is get up and look in the mirror and be like, oh, my face, oh, I'm sorry about this, or oh, my stomach, like whatever. And so now I get up, and even if I don't have the gull in me that morning, because I'm not like sparkly and every single morning, if I don't have that in me to say something kind to myself, like I at least don't say the mean shit. And that's what I try to like really get across to people, is like, if you don't even have it in you to say the nice stuff, which I do think you should say nice things to yourself every morning, at least don't say the mean shit, because like why? Like it does nothing. It wasn't leading me anywhere. And it wasn't just making me a worse person to myself, it was making me a worse person to everyone. And this has just made me such a more empathetic person, and I'm so much more open to like listening to other people and their lived experiences and their different bodies, and it's just made me the person that I was meant to be. Like it's crazy for me to think back on like 16-year-old Macy, like so deep in her eating disorder, all I cared about was being skinny, because I never felt thin enough. And I grew up with a dad and a stepmom that constantly picked on my appearance and told me the second that they could see anything grabbing my stomach or whatever. And that was so critical. And my younger sister, who's 6 years younger than me, also went through an eating disorder as well for the same reasons. And she's on her own recovery journey right now and in such an amazing place. And it's just, I just want to be able to put out the message out there that like, you just really don't have to just be being stick thin. Just isn't, it's not important.
No.
And our society's really made everyone think that it is. And as much as we are moving in a better direction with bodies and fashion, like it's not really there. Like, you know what I mean? It still comes back to that toxicity of like I was telling you, like me getting these comments that are just like hyper fixated on my body and how it looks in clothing. And I just don't want that to be the main focus of my platforms, or even a part of the conversation in my platforms. I just want it to be about fashion and fun. And I think that I've been able to refine fashion, finding fashion
I
in a
love
much
it.
more fun way.
Oh, yes.
That just includes everyone.
That's so important. Thank you for touching on all of this too, because like this is such a huge part of the conversation that is, as you know, taboo and considered like under the radar, when in reality, this is what informs us every single day. If we don't acknowledge it, like this is a part of like fashion's overarching message that we all have to get over and all have to like move through and influence a different message from them. And like, it's not going to be that way, especially in marketing. But like, I'm so grateful to hear that like this has pushed you in a direction that you've been able to empathize with others. And also I've realized too, and just like the way that you speak about thrifting, like you acknowledge your privilege and like your body type and like the access you have and all these things that like do affect how every single person in like is influenced by your work. And like I'm just so happy to hear that you are somebody that like gets that angle. And I'm so sorry that you've had to suffer through those things through like literally the most immense trauma ever. Like to acknowledge that like you overcame all of these things and like you're on the other side able to look at like your lived experience and say like, yeah, that was super fucked up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to choose something else today. And like that's what recovery is. Like it's not, you know, once you struggle with something like that, people like to say too, because I'm educated in the eating disorder realm, not a coach, etc. But just having experience in modeling, I've obviously been surrounded by that. And it's a choice every day. I don't think, and there's an argument too that you live with it for the rest of your life, but it's more that you live with a voice that you choose to shut down. And
100%.
it's mindful. It goes back to mindfulness, which is like the overarching concept.
It really
here.
is. Like we'll get asked by girls that are going through recovery, like, how long does it take and where are you at and when's it going to be over? And I'm like, I'm going to be in recovery for the rest of my life. I every year make not many resolutions, but I kind of always make the resolution in myself to shred another layer of my eating disorder. And, because there's so many layers to it. It's not just the, are you eating or not? It's, for me, it was much more like, how are you speaking to yourself? How are you treating yourself? I treated myself and others like so much worse because all I cared about was how skinny I was. And that's such a toxic little universe to live in. It blinds you to your privilege. It blinds you to other people. It blinds you to listening to other people. And I feel like in my recovery, like, so much of it was like a year or two of me taking a step back, listening to other people, consuming like media from people of different body types, things that I just had never considered before, and other perspectives that I needed to hear, because like I was saying, like you get people all the time will be like, well, I can't have thin privilege because I'm not skinny. I don't think I'm skinny because I have an eating disorder. And I'm like, well,
that's the eating disorder.
That's the eating disorder. And for me, like you said, it's like we live with that voice in our head, but it's like, how much are you letting that influence like your life? And I was really fucking sick and tired of letting some fictitious thing like run my life and like tell me what to do, tell me how to feel about myself, because I let it for so long,
I'm so happy that you seen the other side, and no matter what you experience from here on out, your influence to like help other people and even talking about it and any like whatever dose you do, because obviously you don't owe anything to the internet. That's the other thing with the platform. It feels like you need to put everything.
It's like I don't
out there.
owe that, but it's like I feel like a responsibility when I'm talking about this stuff that I used to consume growing up, to talk about it in a real way and to talk about it in an open way, and to make other girls just like know, I don't know, just to like know that I've been through those things.
And it's a part of why you're able to embrace fashion now and like dress the way you
and
want to
have fun
dress.
with it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm like, I love you. You're the best. Like seriously, I'm like met her today and I'm like, oh, best friends, got it. Thank you so much for touching on all of this. And thank you for continuing to talk about it. I think it's such a, like I said, huge part of why people connect to your stuff and are also excited about fashion too. Like I'm sure there are people that watch your platforms that are like, I didn't realize that you went through that. And now that I see myself in you, I'm able to see myself in what you do.
People think that, that just kind of casually consume my content, like, or find me just like through a TikTok, which is, I share a lot more on YouTube and on Instagram for sure. On TikTok, it's really hard. And honestly, it's a little scary. I found myself, when I got over 100,000 followers on TikTok and pulling back a little bit from what I was sharing, because it felt hard to have other people comment on those aspects of my life, because it's a lot easier to digest like fashion criticism than like criticism of my body or my mental health or like things that I've been through that are like a little harder for me. But I've always been an open book. And for me, like I know my mom always told me growing up, like, you're going through this stuff so you can make it into a movie, write a book, and like do all of this stuff one day. And she's always encouraged that in me and made me feel not ashamed to share these things. So yeah, I'm never gonna shut up about
mom.
it. Yeah,
yo, that's like the consensus of this episode too. It's like your mom is your mom.
I mean,
rocks.
I wouldn't be alive without my mom. She, took me and my sister and just like raised us and did everything for us without my dad. And I just never would be here without her, like dedicating her life to making me feel like I could take on the world. I mean, she called us, we were the Danger Girls growing up. That was our family email address, was the Danger Girls.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I'm really excited for this next segment because I'm going to ask you to show me your fashion finds. So if you don't know, this is a segment where we talk to our guests about some things that they pull from their closet. The first thing I really want you to share is a piece you can't stop wearing.
Okay, so yes, it is my Balenciaga City bag. It's
Stop.
like 2010. I got it on Poshmark for my birthday. My boyfriend got it for me, but I picked it out.
I love it.
And I am obsessed with it. I wanted this bag more than anything back in like my MySpace, just getting into fashion days. Like
Yes.
I literally named her Serena because she gives me such Serena Vanderwoodson
Such
energy.
Serena vibes.
And like Mary Kate and Ashley, like everything. Like I just remember seeing every it girl I was obsessed with wearing this bag that I could never afford. And when it started coming back into like my mind over the past year, I was just like, I need it.
Yes.
So I can't stop wearing it. I'm literally so obsessed with it.
It's beautiful. The
it's-
blue with the gold is
beautiful.
fantastic.
And I don't even normally love gold hardware on my stuff, but this
It's epic. It looks like little
I literally got
gumdrops.
I literally
on
got it for like $300.
dude.
Such a steal
Stop.
because I got it because now everyone's really getting. I mean, they're
They
popping right now,
yeah.
and now the prices are about to be going up on them
Oh,
on
yeah.
resale sites. But yeah, I'm
This is-
obsessed with
And
her.
I love this is the thing I love about this bag too is that like one, you can fit so much in it.
Oh,
like
you can
that's one of
stuff
the
so much
things.
stuff in it.
And also all the hardware is like so well placed, and it's such a testament to like the time it came out. But like you really
It's so good,
stole
and
that.
Balenciaga
Wow.
has like some now that like are like their new versions of it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want that. I want the
No.
one that looks worn in, beat in, and like Mary Kate and Ashley were literally
This
like
was
carrying
literally
it
an
around New
Olsen
York.
bag.
Yeah.
Yes, for all we know, it was theirs.
Like,
It got snatched.
I just love it so much, and I never thought I would have this bag. So like when I got this bag, I was just like,
unreal feeling.
dreams coming true.
Baby Macy is like,
Dreams
"Hell
coming
yeah."
true.
I love it for you. Oh my God. Well, the next thing I want to see is a piece that has a story behind it, which this is also the thing I like to preface. I'd argue everything has a story, but please.
Well, literally, you asked me that, and I was like, I could pull out anything in my closet
Yeah.
because most everything I know exactly where I got it from in the story. But this jacket, I was telling you a little bit before we started recording,
I am freaking out.
is from Teen Vogue Fashion University, which we already talked about. So at that event, it was a bunch of like seminars that we went to, but one of the events that they planned for us was at the Juicy Couture store, like the big one, and they shut down the store at night. They put like a step and repeat on. It was like male models in little like suits serving us little hamburgers, and they gave us like a credit to shop there. And for like 16-year-old Macy, who couldn't afford things from the mall and definitely couldn't afford anything in the Juicy store, they gave us this gift card, and I picked this jacket out, and I have had it ever since. I love it so much. I've barely ever worn it since those days, but now that like Teen Vogue 2010 styles like really coming back into
Oh,
my
yeah.
soul, a la that fucking bag we just talked about, this is everything. I want to wear it. I need to make a whole TikTok about this jacket.
You
I just
really
haven't
should.
yet because it's just, I will never get rid of it. I love it so much.
Everything about this is like a yes. I mean, I'm also like the buttons on this are so juicy.
It literally is so perfect. I love it. I mean, I just like really like can't get over
And we
it.
also talked about how your vest you're wearing right now is
It's,
like
like,
so
the same
parallel.
thing,
It's like the baby
Which this I
version.
just thrifted a couple of weeks ago. This I got literally over 10 years ago. It's like
I love that it's still with you. And like, I mean, look, the tags are like perfect, by the way.
I mean, because I think I only wore it like twice in my life.
you're like it's too special.
I got it and I didn't even like I didn't wear it at the time. Like I don't know. I just remember being in that store and being like, okay, I could get a tracksuit or I could get this really good jacket. It just obviously reminded me of everything that I was seeing in Teen Vogue
Right.
that I could never afford that was on the walls of my bedroom. And I was like, I need a piece of it.
This
so
was the
when I
right
got to
thing.
bring this home to Ohio with me from New York, I was like, this is just, I would look at it and be like, that is my thing to remind me like, you're going places, you're getting the fuck out of here. And that was, it reminded me so much of that experience, and it always has and it always will, and I will never get rid of it.
the best cop, honestly. I think that was absolutely the right move. And now with all the juicy that's just going through shops, like I'm sure you have more than enough velour tracksuits in your life.
Exactly.
This is
exactly.
it.
No, this
Ugh.
is like a piece.
I'm so
It's
glad
a
you kept it.
timepiece.
Timepiece. I love her. I love her. My last question is one piece that has, well, we could say this also applied to that, but has stood the test of time.
I know I was going to use that one again, but I thought I would bring this because this is actually, so this is a YSL like button up, aka what I call shimmy shake
Yes.
tops. And for anyone listening, wearing another Blazed and Glazed ism shimmy shake top, aka a button down that evokes a vibe that makes you move and shake like this.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Anyway, this is a YSL button down that I got at the first LA estate sale that I ever went to in Los Angeles. And it was like this man who had passed away who was a doctor. And I remember walking in to the closet, and this was hanging in a red Dior sweater vest. And I just remember seeing them and being like, oh my God, like what? And then I remember asking the woman, like, how much is it? And she was like, $3. And I was like, okay, thank you.
My brain cannot even
so for
handle
me,
that.
like, this has definitely stood the test of time because, I mean, I don't know, that man was wearing this his whole damn life, I guess, you know, seeing patients in Beverly Hills.
Oh,
and now
my
I
God.
shimmy around in it.
As
In
you
LA
should.
myself.
You're giving
it a whole
doctor-
different life. Giving it a whole different life.
You're the fashion doctor.
And I just love it. It's such a good, obviously it's just like a basic. It's just like a white button up, but it's perfect. It's YSL.
everything.
And I fucking love it. And it was $3.
I'm actually wearing a Saint Laurent button down right now, but like this takes the $3.
$3.
My mind.
And like it just, you can, like it looks old. It feels old.
And the
but,
quality
like,
on, can I feel it? The quality on these
no,
are
like
just
this is gonna last me
unmatched.
forever. I will have this in my
Unmatched.
closet forever, and I love layering it and wearing it all the
I
time.
can even see a corset over it.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much you could do
And
with it.
I wear it all the time, and it's just, it reminds me of my first estate sale in LA, and I just,
Dude.
it's perfect.
The fact when you said $3, I like checked out. My brain was like, nope, I'm out. Good night.
That's the
not
kind of
real.
stuff that you can find at estate sales for sure. It's like the designer for that price because they're like, we're just trying to get rid of it. Like that man didn't know he probably wasn't a fashion guy.
He's
I
like,
could tell based on his
YLS
closet.
who?
It was just like button-ups and sweater vests that he probably wore to see patients, but like he was a rich Beverly Hills doctor, so it was all Dior and YSL.
Right, because he's just like, these
And-
shops are my price point.
Exactly. And like now I have them and they just feel so old and fabulous.
You deserve them. You deserve it. If anyone could get them and I won't feel jealous, it's you. I'm like, nope, she's putting
It's to
in good
give them
work.
a whole different life.
Yes, and
Yeah.
stories. These are all things you need to make TikToks on too.
I
Just like
know.
specific pieces.
I
Would
could
you
do
ever?
that going through my whole closet.
Yeah.
I
Would you
should.
do it? Would you do a series that's like product, like item highlights?
I
Like, something-
should.
You should. That'd
I
be
should.
sick. I'm obsessed with you. Like, there's so much. I don't
This
know
has
where
been
to
like the
start.
highlight of my year so far.
Stop. Thank you for sharing all of that. First of all, those were like the most insane finds I've ever. Like that, my whole soul.
I
right
put a
now
lot
is
of
so
pressure on it. I was
satisfied.
going through my closet last night. I was like, okay, like everything tells a story. I wear everything all the time. I
It's
don't know.
They're hard questions, especially when they're that vague for someone like you who has seen it all. So I'm so excited about everything. We're wrapping up the show. Unfortunately, I could talk to you like
All
all
day.
day long.
All day.
But I guess I really want to wrap on this note. You know, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Your positivity and like your energy and your ability to like really channel that. And I guess it goes back to like law of attraction and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
what do you have any advice for someone that wants to do what you do? And also, what does the future of fashion or an ideal future of fashion look like to you?
I mean, my number one bit of advice is to always just be yourself. There's enough people trying to be so many other things. Being yourself is the best thing that you can do. It's where you're going to feel the most confident and what's going to grow you if that's what you're trying to do. To me, I hope the future of fashion looks more empathetic. You know, there's this environmental aspect of a sustainable fashion that's big, but for me, what really like clicked in my mind and sustainability and was the ethics of it is thinking of garments as people, as the people behind them making them. And, you know, it can make a shirt a lot less cute from a fast fashion brand if you're thinking about like a woman that was underpaid and in terrible working conditions to create it.
Exactly.
And so for me, a lot more empathy for other people. And hopefully a lot more thrifting.
Yes.
But yeah, being yourself and, you know, I just want to keep continuing to make people happy through the lens of fashion. Something I'm working on right now is 2 unscripted shows that are kind of turning fashion on its head. My goal is to reinvent fashion television because we grew up with so many shows like What Not to Wear and like things, even taking elements from like Queer Eye and stuff. I want to create those, but for this like new world that
Age.
is moving in a better direction, a more, like I said, empathetic direction, and just more about celebrating people and kind of having the clothing be a little bit secondary. Like, I don't know, like giving, you know, fashion's the stage, but the people wearing it is also like so important in the stories that they tell in those clothing and just highlighting that and just making it a more like inviting, inclusive area for everyone. I know that term like inclusive gets thrown around so much, but really having that at the forefront of like my mind is it's always at the forefront of my mind because I want my content to be able to reach people that aren't just like me. Be more inclusive and empathetic and happy and exciting and fun and a lot less fucking serious because my God, it's just clothes
Thank God.
and we're just trying to have a good time.
Exactly. Oh, Couldn't have ended on a better note. You are so amazing. Thank you for all of your time and energy and just being who you are and being transparent and real as shit. Like, fashion needs you, and I'm so grateful to have you on Finding Fashion and part of the universe. So please tell people, where can they find you and have your wonderfulness all over their feeds,
So
everywhere.
Blazed and Glazed on TikTok and YouTube. I'm on it all the time. And Macy Eleni, which is my real name, not Blazed and Glazed, on Instagram. But yeah, I'm just there all the time. Not as much posting on my feed because it's very hard to take a fucking Instagram picture, but on my stories all the time.
Well, it's a whole ass thing on Instagram, but I'm so grateful you're doing so much video. You need her in your
Videos
life.
where I feel like I can just do it.
This is where
I
you
can
get
just do it all.
this. So go enjoy the video. Guys, thank you for joining us. Macy, you're the fucking best.
Yes,
I'm
thank you
so
for having
happy.
me.
Thank you for being here. Guys, this has been Finding Fashion. Thank you all for being here, and thank you Galaxy for powering this show. Follow them on Instagram at BuyOnGalaxy. So many cool creators. You might even see Macy in the future. Who knows? Shimmy, shimmy. You can also find me. I'm at Pojo on Instagram, and if you want to get silly, at Pojo Jojo on TikTok. So we'll see you guys on the other side. Have a good one. Go wear something amazing, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.